November 27, 1868, Lieutenant Colonel George Custer with the U.S. 7th Cavalry comes into this area winter before dawn and massacres a village of Cheyenne. Who they were looking for were the dog soldiers that were 5 miles down the road here, or down this creek. What we are here today is to show the ribbon cutting ceremony of this event and of this museum. Join me as we see this and experience people and hear their side of their story.
Well, to me personally, I mean, today is still, I can still feel the effects of it. Like I said, I don't know, I wasn't here when it happened, but when I think about it, I can just imagine in my head. I don't see the scene like a movie, but I can feel it whenever I'm here. And that's, to me, that reinforces my roots here. This will always be home right here because this is where our people are laying. We're laid. And my mom, my dad, my grandparents, everyone I know is here in this area. So whenever I come home, I enjoy seeing the place, but it brings back memories of when I was a kid and when my grandparents and they were still around, and it becomes lonesome. I get lonesome because of that and that feeling, and then because of that, when coming here makes it even deeper. So I just, I get a different feeling when I'm right here in this area, and even back home, back where I live.
That for the tribes is something that we look at is our forefathers or the people who led us. Uh, their blood was spilt out there, and that was something that affected us, and it still does. And like I said, a lot of tribal members have different perspectives. Some want the story told, and some kind of want to suppress it and not have that out there publicly. But through those 3 events, and there was a lot of skirmishes. That Sand Creek here, Little Bighorn, those were the major ones that were known. But there were many, many skirmishes that you'll never read about, you'll never see here in the history books. And the reason why I say that is when we were in Sand Creek, a couple of boys brought a bow and arrow to us while we were there and said our great-grandfather killed a chief, and this is his bow and arrow, and we've always kept it in our family. And they said, we want it to go back to the tribes. So there was always incidences where things had happened that aren't recorded in history, but we know that it was part of life back then in the 1800s. But we do appreciate everything the Park Service has done. I mean, it's memorializing the events that happened to the Cheyenne Arapaho tribes. There's a lot of terrain around here that not only this terrain, but I grew up with a fella in Weatherford whose mother owned some land out here. And he would tell me they would come out here and look for stuff. And he said, Reggie, we find arrowheads and other things out there. And so the battle site, or the site itself right here probably extended, miles and miles. And I had a friend who lived in Berlin, and she said, oh, you came out in just a field, like you see these fields, and went out there and did some work and found grinding stones and other tools that the tribes had used. So this area in itself has a lot of history for the tribes. So like I said, this memorializing this area, some significant, because it is part of our history. It is something that we mention, we talk about, and we discuss, and we're proud that Kevin comes out, and Tucker used to come out and visit the tribes. And I think we need to teach that history so that we know that what events happen to the tribes, that shapes us mentally and physically. And a lot of people try to look at tribal issues on why tribal members are a certain way, and I thought, well, these things shaped us. These things made us who we are. So it is something historical, and we should never forget it, and we do memorialize it. We try to have some ceremonial stuff out here on the anniversary and other times, but like I said, we appreciate the Park Service for always coming to the tribes and trying to make us part of this. And like I said, we appreciate this overlook facility and the other improvements they made. And we always want to respect those people who gave their lives. Who, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here today. So we memorialize this area. We respect this area. We want to do what we can for those who came before us to respect what they did, and that they did it in vain for us, or that they weren't here for no reason. That things happen so that we can further the tribes into the future. And with this, we hope that our children will understand where they came from and how we got here, what shapes our lives, what shapes our culture, our history, and that we need to continue to be ceremonial people, cultural people, and never forget the things that happened to the tribes, so that those people didn't give their lives in vain and it was for nothing. That we continue to grow for what they did for us. And through this memorialization of this site, I believe that our future children will understand that it was a hardship. Today, things are a little bit easier, but they're only easier because of the people who gave their lives.